Assista agora a mais um lançamento com a qualidade Vídeo 3.
It seems to me quite clear that a humanoid civilization will very likely try to find other humanoid civilizations in the Milky Way, if we just take the Milky Way as our place for travel. I'm not talking about extragalactic civilization now. The possibility of finding humanoid civilizations would always be of interest. Just like our astronauts, if we send them away in the search for life, will very likely try to find life which is a kind which is similar. If an astronaut has a chance to visit a planet where there's plant life or insect life, or another planet where there's humanoid life, he very likely will travel to the planet where there is humanoid life. And so it should not surprise us that the extraterrestrial visitors are always described as being humanoid.
The following sequence of photographs and film was taken by the astronauts. While in space, they had many encounters with UFOs that are now being revealed for the first time after decades of secrecy. On the Gemini 4 spaceflight on June 3, 1966, astronaut James McDivitt took a photograph of this cylindrical object. On the mission of Gemini 7, astronaut Frank Borman reported seeing these two objects flying in formation. On the Mercury 1 mission on February 20, 1962, John Glenn took this picture of two glowing objects. On the Gemini 11 mission, September 13, 1966, Pete Conrad and Richard Gordon observed a cluster of UFOs alongside their craft. They described them as large and very bright. During the Apollo 11 mission in July 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw these two UFOs, which were in orbit around the moon. The astronauts filmed the extraordinary glowing objects from the Apollo 11 spacecraft and reported to Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, that the UFOs even accompanied them to the moon. Many astronauts made their own private films while on space missions. This film, shot by James McDivitt in a long sequence, shows the remarkable aerobatic ability of UFOs. The astronauts faced UFOs so regularly that they became part of their everyday life. Because of restrictions, however, they were unable to describe their encounters to the public. One of the first to break the silence is former astronaut Brian O'Leary, a professor of physics and an astronomer from Princeton University, who comes forward for the first time to speak of the reality of visitation from out of this world.
What I do know from my own experience and from scientific investigations and experiments is that UFO phenomena and a range of other events are part of our reality, as incredible as they may seem.
Jetzt war es dann endlich soweit. Der erste Mann war auf dem Mond gelandet.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
During their moonwalks, a giant glowing UFO hovered above their heads. While in orbit around the moon, a huge object remained in view for a considerable amount of time before it suddenly disappeared. This UFO was seen above the landing site. This cigar-shaped UFO was photographed from the orbiting space module.
Down to the pad. That may have been a small deal, but that's a long.
On this very first trip into the unknown, the astronauts repeatedly reported to Mission Control that they were being escorted by unidentified flying objects. After landing on the moon, the astronauts stated that the UFOs were still present in the distance, hovering near a large crater. They were well aware that they had been observed throughout their entire mission.
It's also like sundown again. Yeah, powder. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. No, May's the month. May, that's right. May is the year of the month. When, much to my surprise, a pair of lovely eyes. Hello, Ryan. It's Houston. Hi there. We lost you for a while. Yeah, we sure did.
The momentous leap to the moon led to the dawning of the space age. Space travel opened up endless opportunities for mankind to explore new frontiers. NASA's plans are already well underway for colonies to be developed on other planets, beginning with Mars.
Space offers unlimited growth. You cannot force any living form to stop growing. People need to grow, and they need to have more elbow room and new frontiers. And the opening of space provides that. And so the moon, and particularly Mars, as a new living environment, will provide hope for future generations, many, decades in the future, to continue to grow. If we don't do that, Earth remains closed, and we would have to stop growing totally, entirely. Otherwise, we would destroy ourselves and the environment. And I don't think that this proposition of stopping to grow will be accepted by any living form, including humans. People want to grow. People want to have children.
The compelling influence of our origins is the energy which fuels life itself. The purpose of our existence is to move ever closer to the source of creation by the expansion of our horizons and species, to explore the frontiers of infinity, which are our inheritance.
The other aspect of it is, in order to continue our internal growth, we need to do external steps. In my feeling, I've always been confident that for every step we take on the outside, we have to take also a step on the inside, deeper down into ourselves. There is no way for us to explore Mars or to explore the universe if at the same time we don't also explore ourselves and become more complex humans, more rounded, more holistic humans. It is not really a necessity. I think it'll just happen anyway. It's a law. It's a natural law that if we do any step out to Jupiter and to Mars, and if we send our space probes out, we will change, whether we want it or not. It's a change in consciousness, and we will start asking questions which we have never even thought about years before. Just seeing the Earth from space as an individual little ping pong ball has already caused a revolution in the environmental area. The environmental people have put the Earth as photographed from space on their banner, as a symbol, as a mandala. So space and its overview effect, the view of Earth from space, has helped to initiate a revolution of Earth consciousness, of people becoming conscious of Earth as a vulnerable spaceship which they need to keep in repair and maintained.
Here now some astronauts' impressions of their first view of Earth from space.
Looking back at our beautiful planet, you're immediately struck by what a gorgeous place we've been given to live. It's an incredible, living, beautiful planet going through the big black void of space.
I realized that mankind needs height to know our Earth, to see what we cannot see close up. Not just to love her beauty, but also to ensure that we do not bring even the slightest harm to the natural world.
The first day or so, we all pointed to our countries. The third or the fourth day, we were pointing to our continents. By the fifth day, we were aware only of one Earth.
Что это как цветомузыка. Ты видишь, а музыка...
The Earth is like color music. You see the colors and the music springs in your soul. Our planet is so vulnerable and needs to be taken care of.
Yet another astronaut said, "In this complete silence of space, questions from the deepest inside arise. Where is my place in all this? What do I mean when I say I?"
Every child hungers to explore the universe because there's an unconscious recognition that the universe is our source and that we belong to something larger than the confines of our physical world and our immediate environment. Every being born looks up at the stars at night and wonders if there's something out there that can be contacted, that can help us to understand the mystery of life, even the purpose of our own existence.
Within the heart of this living miracle of creation, science has begun to detect the presence of other dimensions of existence, living in parallel worlds to our own. That means in the space our solar system occupies, other solar systems can exist also on a different vibration. Whatever happens in this world has an influence on the other worlds to a certain degree.
Your inability to imagine the concept of our technology restricts your understanding of intergalactic travel. Movement through time and space is a natural result of our scientific achievement. The existence of parallel worlds with one race living in the same space as another is not yet fully understood on Earth. Our craft move from dimension to dimension by altering our state of molecular vibration and merging with the new one. This action gives the impression that we suddenly appear or disappear from your sky. Speed is of no significance in space travel. All movement is achieved by molecular interchange.
When we come from other dimensions, we materialize and become visible to you. We sometimes do this to make mankind slowly aware that he is not alone. You see many of our smaller craft in the lower atmosphere, but these come from much larger motherships of many sizes which are stationed around the Earth.
Motherships very rarely enter the Earth's atmosphere, but on one rare occasion, this remarkable film was shot of such a ship flying at low level over Germany in 1980. It was seen by other witnesses in a nearby village who reported seeing 3 smaller craft emerging from the larger one. They stated that the craft was at least 100 long. This film of a cigar-shaped mothership was taken in Rhode Island, America on June 3, 1967. The leaf effect motion of the ship is common with most sightings. Craft of this size and shape have been reported all over the world. This aerial photo was taken by Inaki Ozis while flying at 8,000 feet in February 1968. Probably the same cigar-shaped mothership was photographed in Texas 10 days later. Over the following few days, an object fitting a similar description was reported by various witnesses.
Life aboard our motherships is ruled by a mixture of self-discipline, love of each other, and the merging of all spirits into one. Every need is catered for in respect of rest, recreation, and meditation of the soul. Illness does not prevail, but analyzation and anecdotal equipment is always ready in case of unexpected or unknown space microbes attacking the craft or our bodies.
Our food is comprised of a rotation of the many choices available on our own planet, but does not include the flesh of other life forms. We do occasionally take the fruit of certain organic trees and shrubs found on other planets, but only when they are known to be totally safe and pollution-free. Our water on the craft is produced by cosmic conversion. All byproducts are disposed of by the disintegration of the composite molecules. The psychological spirit of each of us is at one with the elements which surround us, and when we are at one with our universe, we are at peace.
My personal views on UFOs are that these are alien-piloted vehicles. When I say alien, I mean alien to anything we know. That possibly they come from other worlds, but I think it's highly likely also that they come from other dimensions, other time spheres, and that there isn't one type of alien coming here. There are probably many of them, all from different areas. When people report these things, we get such a variety of things reported, so many shapes, so many forms, and this appears to cause the confusion because there is such a variety of these things. But really speaking, if these things are visiting us from a whole host of different areas, one would expect them to be different forms, different machines, and I think this person is the answer to it.
Meanwhile, we scan the skies with optical and radio telescopes of great power, which penetrate the universe for 15 billion light years, watching, listening for signs of intelligent life. Large numbers of people on Earth wait and watch in the hope that one day they may be contacted or visited by visitors from space.
In Russia, a large crowd of people who had gathered to watch a famous singer being filmed saw more than they had bargained for when a UFO suddenly appeared above their heads. The camera crew quickly focused their camera on the object and recorded an aerial display that lasted several minutes. The crowd found this more intriguing than the singer. Even she eventually stopped singing to watch the UFO. Numerous UFOs are seen over Russia regularly. These balls of light are identical to those reported in Belgium and the rest of Europe in 1990, which attracted extensive attention on top military and civilian levels. In April 1990, this cigar-shaped UFO was filmed over Russia by an amateur. These flying objects are now acknowledged by the Russian military as being alien flying machines.
The nucleus, the authentic nucleus of the UFO phenomenon must be our research field, and that is certainly worthwhile. However skeptics may talk about the UFO phenomenon, whether they call people who have encountered psychopaths or even scientists who concern themselves with UFOs as cranks, we simply have to accept, if we inform ourselves, that there's a small percentage of absolute authentic cases which represent the UFO phenomenon. And we must continue to investigate this nucleus. It will be worthwhile.
When I first saw my UFO, I always quote my UFO now, you've got to bear in mind I was dealing with something like this with the clinical mind of a policeman. So my immediate reaction was, well, what makes a thing like this tick? How does it go? How can you get an enormous machine like this which doesn't make sound? Why does it look so beautiful? Why did I see it? Why was it there? There's so many whys. And I knew I had to find out answers to these things. It was very, very difficult. There was no easy way of finding an answer to something like this. But it seemed to me that things naturally came my way. I started to receive reports from people as it became known I was interested in this subject. And then I had so many other incidents following this of close encounters. It was quite amazing, really, because these things seemed to know where I was, even when I wasn't on the initial hillsides where I found them. I had occasions when I would be driving down a country road, then suddenly one of these things would be in the sky, flying alongside me very close. And it was almost a cat and mouse game. And I had nothing but no fear, never any fear, because there was never anything directed towards me which would indicate there was any hostility. And so I got a sort of affection for them. I had to keep thinking, what kind of technicians put something like this together? Because it was such an amazing thing. But I knew that this thing was not from here.
For the past 45 years, people from every country have reported seeing UFOs. The descriptions of these objects have been all too similar, despite the fact that the witnesses live thousands of miles apart. Witnesses include astronauts, pilots, scientists, and police. Even presidents of the United States. Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan have spoken openly about their seeing UFOs. Since 1945, an estimated 5 million UFO sightings have been reported from across the world. Most sightings are of singular objects, although many are of 2 or 3. In some cases, large formations have been spotted. The greatest number of UFOs usually appear after 9 p.m. Although a large percentage of these sightings can be explained as natural phenomena, many cannot. Thousands of people are asking questions. What are these UFOs? Where do they come from? Why can't I see one? Why are they here? And more people want to communicate with the extraterrestrials, to learn more about them, get to know them, to understand.
And we must continue to investigate this nucleus. It will be worthwhile to take up communication with extraterrestrial intelligences. May one day be not only a rewarding element in our lives, but it may guarantee our survival.
Through the presence of UFOs and the messages received from them, our attention was drawn to the power that we had created and the fear which had grown out of our inability to control it.
There have been so many and increasingly frequent communications between ourselves and the extraterrestrials or civilizations from other dimensions, other galaxies, other planets. Most of those communications have had but one theme. We are here to help you. You are at a critical point in your evolution. If you abuse the laws of the cosmos by shattering the source of life, by shattering the atom, by directing its effect in a destructive way, you will be influencing the medium of all of the rest of the cosmic neighbors, and we cannot allow that to take place. I want to say that it is folly for humans to think, again, that some government or some species from anywhere else is going to save us from this dilemma, from this abuse of the life force energy. But we must seek communication there so that we can answer what has up until now been unanswerable for us. We cannot continue to purposefully create radioactive materials while we do not know how to demanifest the excess materials. We can learn these answers by communicating with these extraterrestrials.
The evolution of your civilization has reached a critical stage. With the discovery of the matter reaction known as nuclear fission, you inherited a source of great destructive potential. Such power must be controlled by wisdom and foresight. Your inventive ability has advanced beyond your fundamental power of reason. This syndrome existed on certain other worlds, resulting in their destruction. This guidance is given to you in order that you may realize that energy is your friend, but must be kept under control. Otherwise, it will be your enemy.
There are people among you who are realizing new concepts of science which would solve the Earth's problems. This technology is in harmony with nature, and therefore could only serve your needs in a positive way, never creating problems or causing harm. Each of you interacts with the cosmos. This realization will bring you to a higher level of global consciousness. It's in your power to make the Earth once more a peaceful, thriving planet, which all of us know is one of the most precious jewels of the universe.
Other civilizations are trying to convince us that technology has a more meaningful purpose when used for the good of all. We have reached a point when we need to ask ourselves whether we want to live in a world where the use of destructive technology is dictating the development of our Earth.
If we ask, what does the technology that goes on in the regular world today, what does it really try to do in science? Basically, it's trying to develop tools that are more and more powerful, they're smaller and smaller, they're cheaper and cheaper, and easier to build. If you extend that to the limit, where does that go? Where does that lead you? It leads you to this situation. The tools become so powerful that if they're used as weapons, they could destroy the whole Earth. They become so that one person might hold one of these that would destroy the Earth in both hands. It'd be that small. They become cheap enough that maybe it costs only $3,000, and where a great number of citizens could readily afford that. Instead of buying a new car, they buy 3 or 4 of these. And it becomes simple enough that there are several 100,000 technicians properly trained with a little change of mind and all, can in fact build such devices. We are beginning to approach that area, beginning to arrive at that area now. We can make real progress in resolving or lowering or decreasing man's inhumanity to his fellow man and the great hostility of weaponry and so forth in the world today. And unless we do that, we simply will not survive our own technology. The power of our tools will be turned against us by other people who are inhumane, and we will destroy each other.
Man decides for himself. The alien visitors have achieved a high understanding of the forces of nature and harmonize with the many variations of the 4 elements, their creative energy, and their higher dimensions. We are now beginning to realize that this vast knowledge of the cosmos must be the basis of our new science.
Life is abundant in the cosmos in the approach that I'm taking. For example, in quantum mechanics, the modern view of the vacuum is that inside what we normally think is emptiness, there is continually appearing a little particle, a little form, a little group of particles, and then these almost instantly disappear, so fast that they can't be independently caught and measured. But they're very real. We have experiments which show they really do exist that fashion. And they continually appear and disappear all of the time at an incredible rate. And any kind of form that you might wish to name appears every so often in that. Any kind of living being, any kind of a material molecule or an atom of gold or an automobile or anything you might name, a living being, a living animal, appears in there with a certain occurrence, a certain frequency. And so what we have then is these things called ghost forms. And if we really look at that, it's an area that most quantum physicists are very, very uncomfortable with. But nonetheless, it is real. And so if we look at that, we have to then speak of the density of reality, how dense a thing is in the overall plan. And when we say something is observable or real and physical, what we really mean is it's very, very dense compared to these ghost forms. But the ghost forms are real. And theoretically, if you add energy to that form so that they acquire more energy, you could materialize any form whatsoever. And we wind up by pointing out that in space-time, the time portion of it, thought and mind and spirit exist in time as well as the matter. And so there is at least one common dimension, if we treat that as a dimension, the time dimension. And the ghost forms that are even thought forms, therefore also can theoretically be materialized, gathered sufficient energy.
The energy of the cosmos is present in all things and is a force which surrounds our very existence. It is interwoven into the substance of life and retains the memory of all action which is dissipated into the universe. The magnetic field which is possessed by all substance interacts with this force and absorbs from it. Consequently, the unknown evolutionary changes taking place in one area can be linked to another distant area without any physical contact. The breakthrough made by Dr. Rupert Sheldrake with the discovery of the memory of nature breaks down the boundaries between man and the cosmos, proving that he is a part of an intricate web of energy and memory in which man is no longer imprisoned in his conventional concept of time.
Well, I think Sheldrake's research, for example, is very significant. He has simply labeled this the morphogenetic field, a field that generates a force gradually over a very long period of time. It accumulates an antidote for what's wrong with a species, for example, or any system, for example. Take the basic idea. The parts of any system, even though they were separated in space, if they're connected by quantum potential, they act together as if they were partially connected back to a same local system and not separated at all. And so I think it's very exciting in its implications for physics, because we're talking about here a physics which is an entire order of magnitude deeper and more fundamental than the present physics we have. And as long as you cannot escape from the morphogenetic field, it is a spur which will drive physicists to look for the actual mechanism that causes that to happen. And when they really get that, and get that accepted, and get that where they learn to work with it, they will have a new physics, a more fundamental physics that can be used to better everybody's life. That's the significance of Rupert Sheldrake's work.
We are linked to a consciousness of the universe through each action and each thought. This creates a force that governs our evolution beyond time and space.
Consciousness is unlimited. We have many, many levels of awareness or consciousness. For example, we can think, and that's one kind of consciousness. And we can feel emotionally, and that's another. Beyond that is a consciousness that extends out from our physical body. Our awareness, our spark of life that we carry throughout our lives does not end when the body ends, nor is it entrapped in the body. For example, when you sleep, your consciousness travels out from you. When you love, when you are connected to people in your family, or even perhaps people on the other side of the world, your consciousness extends out from the physical realm and perceives. We have a system in the brain. It's called the reticular activating system of the brain. And when we experience something new, it records that. It records all of the responses and reactions that our parents have to the outside world when we're children. We also record what happens to us in our dreams. When some level of our body, we call it the astral body, which is very similar to the physical one, but it's made up of the electromagnetic energies of the body, travels out from us into other dimensions, into other octaves, and brings back information. Often we call this telepathic information. We don't know why we know something, but in fact the brain is simply recording what is accessing out there in the invisible worlds. This is a powerful part of human potential. It belongs to each one of us. Every child has it. If you think about it, you will know that sometimes you feel and recognize things that come from beyond the limitation of your physical body. And this is your universal consciousness that travels with you even beyond the death of your human vehicle.
We are your brothers of space and time, who come extending the hand of friendship to greet our cosmic neighbors. We have watched from afar as you deal with the growing pains of your young race. We see you are moving to a higher level of understanding in accordance with cosmic law. You are on the threshold of joining us on the universal journey, and we wait patiently for this momentous step in your evolutionary progress.
For me, it would be the height of human separation to conclude that we are alone in this vast, vast galaxy, in these infinite universes that surround us. Time is an illusion. Time unfolds itself in an unending arc where the past and the future come and run headlong together into the present. There not only are sources of consciousness beyond our own, even on this planet, and certainly on other planets and other galaxies, some of which must be more advanced than ourselves. All of the great books that have spoken of our history and have even whispered of our prehistory have mentioned that constantly, if we look over the eons of time, there have been visitations from other beings who seeded our species, who have quickened our species so that we could understand who we are and how we are to live, and the importance of our thoughts and our manifestations, not only to ourselves in small groups, to the entire planet, but our planet as it is a part of a neighborhood in the universe. We have, for ever so long, been able to commune with those species. We have an opportunity now to actively call forth a relationship with them and embrace what they can offer us, what they can teach us, not only about the laws of matter and manifestation in visible worlds as they move into visible worlds, understanding about radiation, our place in the universe, but we as well have something to offer them, because the human experience is unique. This is what we call the planet of the heart. We have an emotional body. We have a divine spiritual connection to each other that whispers about the source of life, the life force energy itself. Because of this unique energy that comes from us, this emotional, spiritual energy, we attract to this part of the galaxy many, many civilizations and unique species who are coming to extract what we have learned about the expression of the life force energy. We are only one of infinite species, expressions of life. And the more we extend our consciousness, the more we can embrace others. Even the more we can mutate or cause the evolution of our own species onto an octave that is more successful, not only in surviving on this small planet, but perhaps even in the very near future, surviving as guests of other planets, other galaxies.